Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. We are going to start second lecture of some applications of contingent commodities. First one is risk premium. We can call is risk premium too. What is risk premium? Risk premium is actually the extra return on an investment, or you call it compensation to the investor, and it's actually the difference between risk-free rate and market return. So we can say it that you can take the example of it like this. Risk premium is actually important piece of evidence for this fact is that riskier assets tend to pay higher rate of returns than safe assets. Actually, most of the people are risk averse than risk loving. Risk averse. Why people are risk averse? Because they want to invest in such an assets which are having the less risk. And people want to invest into government bond rather than into a risky company bond. And similarly, risk premium is actually showing the distance between utility curve that goes through the risky bit. Risk premium actually showing the distance between the utility curve that goes through risky bit and the utility curve responding the safe level. Now you see through the diagram, this portion is actually showing the risk premium. Risk premium, kept in mind, risk premium is actually compensation for the investors, and this is the risk-free rate, and this is the market return, and the distance between risk-free rate and market return is known as risk premium. So we can also say what will be the formula if we formulate a formula for risk premium. Risk premium is actually equal to market return minus risk-free rate. Here we can say if market return is 9% and risk-free rate is 3%, then the distance between it is risk premium. So risk premium, remember what is risk premium? Risk premium is actually, you can kept in mind with one word in your mind. What is risk premium? Always remember, risk premium is extra return. Kept in mind, risk premium is the extra return. You must kept in mind that it is an extra return, and I am going to underline it. Risk premium is the extra return on an investment. This is the risk premium. This one is risk premium. However, it is the new term for you, but when you listen the word risk premium, quickly kept in your mind that risk premium is extra return. Risk premium is extra return on an investment to compensate for risk. This is the main thing you have to keep in mind, and you can take the example. A player or a persons will always want to invest into the government bond because it is less risky compared to a risky bond, because risky bond is having the more risk and government bond is having the less risk because it is a long-term policy, and people want to invest into the long-term government bond in the country where the company is based, and risk-free rate is normally taken as yield on a long-term government bond in the country where the company is based. Next one is the role of diversification. What is diversification? Diversification is such like that you have to invest into different assets, not in one asset. You have to spend your investment into different assets so that you can have to minimize the chances of risk. So we can say that diversification is the process of buying several assets in order to reduce risk. What is diversification? Diversification is actually related to several assets. Diversification is related to several assets for the purpose of reducing risk. You can take the example of it, like for example, you bet $10 that it will be rain. On the other hand, you bet $10 that it will not be rain. It means that you are betting for both the cases. It will be rain and it will not the rain. It means that if it is raining, you will $10, and it's not raining, you will also win the $10. It means that the outcome of each bet contains risk, but together there is no risk. So you always remember the word diversification. What is diversification? Diversification is linked with several assets. And why it is diversification is related to several assets? For the purpose of reducing risk. If you have a basket in which you are going to put several assets, and the purpose of several assets is just to reduce the risk, and the best example is mentioned here. If you are going to invest on the same case, and the purpose of the same case, it will or it will not, is just for the purpose of no risk. Next one is tax evasion. And what is tax evasion? Tax evasion is actually failure to pay taxes. You have to remember, it is just failure to pay taxes that are legally due. Yeah, we can say its tax evasion is actually illegal non-payment or underpayment of taxes. In our country, most of the elite class want to remain tax evasion. Most of the people are not paying the tax, and this form of tax, when the people are not paying the tax or paying less amount of the tax, this is actually the form of the tax evasion. And how we can analyze tax evasion? Tax evasion is actually the decision to avoid the taxes, like this, depend on the tax rate. Decision to avoid taxes depend upon the tax rate, penalty of the rate. Penalty is actually as due of the amount which we have to pay after the due date. Like in your home, you have to pay the electricity bill, and the date is due, then you have to submit extra amount. That extra amount is actually the form of the penalty which we have to pay. And likelihood of getting audited. What is audited? Audited is actually officially financial inspection of a company or its accounts. And how we can draw the tax evasions? In tax evasion, consumer will obtain the equilibrium by the intersection of indifference curve and budget constraint, and the slope of indifference curve is MRS, and the slope of budget constraint is minus the marginal tax T divided by penalty rate F. And where the equilibrium will hold? Equilibrium is where the indifference curve hits the budget constraint. Similarly, where will be the equilibrium? Equilibrium will be where budget constraint hits the indifference curve. You already know that we have to draw like this. This is actually the equilibrium where budget constraint hits the IC curve. Yeah, this is the IC curve which we have to draw. Now I draw it here. Yes, like this. This is IC and this is the equilibrium point. This is budget line, and this is your IC curve. This is IC curve, and what we have to choose equilibrium is where the indifference curve hits the equilibrium is where indifference curve hits the budget constraint line. This equilibrium tells whether the individual will pay full tax or not. Actually, this equilibrium will show the consumer is going to pay the full tax or is going to not paying the amount of the tax. So again, you recall what is tax evasion? Tax evasion is actually failure. What type of failure? Failure to pay taxes that are legally due. When you listen the word tax evasion, what you have to remember kept in your mind, it is actually failure to pay taxes that are legally due. And how will it be decided? It will be decided by the equilibrium, that how much amount the individual will have to pay of the taxes, full taxes or not. This equilibrium will decide this thing. Next one is designing policy towards evasion. Similarly, a risk-averse person will choose not to accept an actuarial fair gamble, and if penalty rate is F, this is the penalty rate. If we present the penalty rate with F and probability of an audit is present with the help of P. So what will be the result? It's mean that expected gain must be equal to the expected loss. So this is the formula in which we say expected gain must equal to the expected loss, and this is the expected gain. So the expected gain must equal the expected loss. You can just write it, the word expected gain must equal to the expected loss, and this is the formula. Again, we mention it here. This is the formula, and where F, what is F? F is what F is presenting, what 1 minus P is presenting, and what is T is presenting. So you have to recall it, that what is evasion? Evasion is actually drawn that for how much amount the person will not have to pay. It is decided by this, that expected gain must be equal to the expected loss. It's the mathematical proof, and you have to remember it, so that when we will do the numerical of this, it will be easiest for you to recall all the concept of it. Next one is insurance. What is insurance? All of you have listened the word insurance, that we have to take the jubilee insurance of our life, or for our children, for our education, for our automobiles, for our mobiles, each and everything which assets we have. If we insure them from the State Bank of Pakistan or any another institute, for that are doing the work of insurance. Then what is the insurance? Insurance is actually you have to remember insurance that sometimes a risk averse person wouldn't accept an actually fair gamble, and because they don't have a choice. So because they don't have a choice, because sometimes risk just inherently exist, and when the risk is inherently exist, that you have to face, then there is no chance to avoid from it, because risks are inherently exist. Then risk averse people will pay to get rid of the risk they have to face. For example, I purchased a car, and I am not sure that the car will not having any kind of accident or any kind of loss during the drive. So I first, the thing which I kept in my mind, that I insured my automobile, so I avoid the loss which I face in case of any kind of event. So next one is, what is the fair insurance? Actually, fair insurance represents the premium of the insurance policy, is the price of obtaining insurance coverage. Fair insurance is when premium equals the expected payout of the insurance provider. Let's take the probability of the event happening, sometimes the cost if it does happen. Probability of an event happening times the cost if it does happen. For premium, for example, let's take the example. For example, the premium for $1 worth of insurance is simply the probability of the bad state of the world occurring. For example, probability of an injury is 1/5. Then a person can buy $1 of actually fair insurance for $0.20. Fair insurance, what is fair insurance? That you have to lay the probability of an insurance event, and what will be the probability? Here is the example of an injury. If we have the probability of an injury 1/5, then what will be, then we will have to buy $1. And what will be the fair insurance if we are going to having the probability of 0.20? It's mean that 5% part of insurance for the event is going to be happen, that there will be the 5% portion of the injury that will happen if there is not the insurance of the particular product. Next one is budget constraint with fair insurance. Then budget constraint, how we can connect the budget constraint with the fair insurance? Budget constraint actually shows trade-off between the consumption if the event occurs and the consumption if event does not occur. It's meant that budget constraint or budget line associated with actually fair insurance is a straight line that passes through the endowment point and whose slope is P divided by P minus 1. Here are two type of consumptions, that C1 is equal to C2, and if event is going to happen, and if the event is going to be happen, if this event is not going to happen, then what will be the endowment point? That will P divided by P minus 1. This is the probability, this is the chances of having less loss in case of any kind of profit. Next one is equilibrium amount of fair insurance. Then how we get the equilibrium under the fair insurance? Actually, equilibrium occurs where the consumption in the case of bad event is equal to the consumption in case of a good event. Mean, as we say, loss equal to gain, or chances are 50% equal to 50%, mean what will be the consumption in case of bad event and what will be the consumption in case of a good event. And just as capital market allow an individual to spread consumption over different periods of time, and insurance market also allow an individual to spread consumption over different stages of the world. Mean you are not bound to do consumption into a particular area, that you can spread your consumption. You can spread consumption over a periods of time. Mean individual is allow to spread consumption over different stages of the world. Next one is demand for unfair insurance. That how much demand for unfair insurance into the market, into the real world. Actually, real world insurance policies are unfair in the sense that premium exceeds the expected monetary benefits. Premium exceeds the expected monetary benefit. This is because insurance firms need some margin to recover operating costs. Next one is demand for unfair insurance. Why we call it unfair insurance? Because in the real world insurance policies are unfair. Why it is unfair? It is unfair because premium exceeds the monetary benefits. Why premium exceeds? Premium actually exceeds because insurance firm need some margin to cover operating costs. So you have to remember that. Why the unfair insurance? Unfair insurance because premium exceeds the expected monetary benefits, and the reason of it is that the firms have to cover operating costs. So what will be the importance of insurance? Why we do insurance policy, and why we want in our developing countries, however, it's not much trend of insurance. But if you listen from any one of your close ones, and if you see the situation of 12 countries, they do insurance of everything. Even they do insurance of mobiles, they do insurance of cars, they do insurance of health, do insurance of house. Each and every assets which a person have, they do insurance of each and everything. And why we do it? We do it because you can see, for example, a person might buy a saver car even though it's more expensive as insurance against an accident. Why insurance is required? Because we have to do it, required it, because insurance are required because they are not for purchased, and if there is any kind of incident, we do it, recover it, and we don't have to face the loss. And it's the topic of today. We will discuss further in the next lecture, inshallah. If in case of any query, you can put your question into the comments. We will discuss this as soon as possible. Allah.